Guys, it's insane. I mean, I lived the hell that was politics. I remember that night when we won and we put everything on the field. Guys, we knew nothing about politics. I always joke about this. I mean, we didn't know what a caucus was. We didn't know what state came first. I mean, we didn't know what a delegate was. This isn't our world. We're not politicians, right? And we went out there and we spoke from the heart, and we did so as a family. We raised literally 1/5 the amount that Hillary Clinton did. So somebody was obviously looking down at us as we went through this little voyage. And I'll never forget, Hillary won. I mean, when Hillary called my father after my father won to concede, 12 minutes after that, the Washington Post comes out with a story. This is when impeachment begins. They were talking about this 12 minutes after Hillary conceded the election. We went in and, it's, this guy Sussman going into the FBI to lie that we had secret servers with Russia. Then he calls up the New York Times. The New York Times writes these stories that there's collusion. Then they take out the Attorney General Sessions, and they put in a special, counsel, and they go through every piece of paperwork, and they drag these young kids in the White House through the absolute mud. They bankrupt these kids because they don't have the ability to pay for legal fees. They put people under thousands of hours of congressional testimony. They waste millions of hours of time. It's the only story that the country's talking about for a 3-year period of time while my father's trying to run the country. Literally, it's, how hard that is to have a conversation with Russia when the entire U.S. media is talking about how somebody falsely colluded with Russia. Like, what do you think Putin's thinking on the opposite side of the ocean? So you're trying to do diplomacy, and all because of this power-hungry woman trying to get a couple extra votes and take somebody out of power, and the crookedness. This whole country has to deal with this crap for years and years and years. And guys, it's wrong. And that's the problem with this country. I mean, the weaponization of politics, and it pisses me off as a non-politician, but the weaponization of politics in this country is insane. Every day we get subpoenaed. We have prosecutors. They're only on one side of the aisle. We have never gotten a subpoena before my father won, before that, concession call that I just mentioned before. And every single day we get subpoenaed. People try and find one comma that's out of place. They want to take my father down. They tried to do it to him with the first impeachment. They did it to him. They tried to do it with him with the second impeachment. They tried to do it with Kavanaugh. I mean, how many people's lives do these power-hungry people need to destroy? And it makes you feel like you live in a banana republic. Like, we're better than this as a country.
Yeah, it's like
clearly sit on one side of the political aisle, but I'm not into these games. And frankly, if Republicans were doing this to Democrats, I would be wholly damn against it. Guys, it can't happen in a true democracy. Otherwise, we're no better than Venezuela. We're no better than these, third world countries all over the place that, we try and save every day. And it's got to stop. It's got to stop in this country.
Yeah, I've actually got I'll summarize it a bit. I've got an article coming out in Newsweek this week about impeachment. Impeachment's never been used correctly, not once in the history of this country. So the first guy was Andrew Johnson. He wanted to fire his Secretary of War because he disagreed about how he was going to go about some things. And as you know, members of the cabinet serve at the pleasure of the president. He or she can ask for their resignation or fire them whenever they want. The Congress passed a law making it illegal for the president to dismiss a member of his own cabinet without their approval, and then they impeached him for it when he did it, right? And then obviously Bill Clinton got impeached because I don't know why exactly. I guess lying on the stand about getting his dick sucked. I mean, he had a shitty presidency, and the nation-building stuff he tried to do was a horrible mistake. And then you have Trump, the first one was over the Ukrainian phone call, which was nothing. Right now, we've never used it correctly once, and now people are talking about impeaching Biden. And I heard Ted Cruz on his podcast about a month ago say that he'll probably get impeached whether he deserves it or not. Right. That's fucked up. Right. Yeah. That's not if you want to continue hammering away at this shit and completely fracture the entire country. That's the path you want to be on. But that's not exactly what most people want. I don't think.
I don't either. By the way, Dan, they tried to do it more than just twice. It wasn't just Russia. Remember, they first tried to do it on Russia, but then when the whole narrative fell apart, you had Mueller come out and they said, you know what? Nothing happened. There was no collusion between. Then all of a sudden the Democrats went crazy and said, you know what? We're not going to do it on Russia. We're going to do it on obstruction. So apparently there was obstruction of something that never happened before because my father said it wasn't true. So they tried to get him on obstruction. Then they tried to get him on a phone call. Yeah. And it wasn't until my father had enough balls to put out the actual transcript of the telephone because people were lying about what was said on that phone call. Thank God it was actually recorded, right? You had people from the White House that were, kind of transcribing the call. They tried to impeach him on that. But then remember the whole cognitive thing? It's really interesting now that we're watching Biden. He can't get through a sentence without, stuttering. He literally can't say a number. He can't get through a number.
Yeah, it's rough.
And yet, with my father, it's Article 25 of the Constitution. He's mentally unfit and all this crap. You don't hear that anymore. I mean, the weaponization of the system has to stop, because the amount of, you talk about China, and China's like something that's really, really just, we've got to start focusing on China because they want to eat our lunch, and they are every single day. They're launching hypersonic missiles, and we are trying to impeach people who are trying to run, a country. We're talking about transgender bathrooms, and these guys are building the greatest military the world has ever seen, stealing our jobs, stealing our manufacturing, stealing everything that we have, breaking into our, into the Pentagon, stealing plans for our fighter planes and everything else. I mean, manipulating world currencies, taking and buying the biggest seaports in the world, doing 5G to otherwise control all communication in the world. And we're sitting there screwing around with people who are trying to fight all of that, using impeachment and politically motivated prosecutors and, all sorts of other gains. It's got to stop in this country. Otherwise, we're not going to have a country.